Hello, and welcome to the Project Good podcast. I'm your host, Anne-Marie Hilton. Project Good is a social impact podcast interviewing experts and advocates about the pressing problems that we face globally and hearing how they suggest we move forward in the future. The Project Good podcast is brought to you by Project Good Work. The goal of this podcast is to inspire people and organizations to develop a mindset that can move others to positive action regarding the complex social issues facing people and the planet. For October, we're focusing on modern philanthropy. When people hear the word philanthropy, they often think of wealthy individuals who give to a cause that they love or inspires them. Also, there's often an image of a philanthropist being a well-to-do white male or female, which often leaves other groups of people feeling left out. What if that image could change today? No matter what your social or economic level you find yourself, you become the philanthropist you've always dreamed of. It's possible. Today, I have the pleasure of interviewing Sarah Lomelin, who is turning the world of philanthropy on its head, and in the process, breaking the power dynamic between who gives and who receives. Sarah is the founding CEO of Philanthropy Together, an organization advocating collective giving and on a mission to bring more people and diverse perspectives into philanthropy, while taking people and issues from the margins and putting them in the center. Let's get into the interview. For far too long, philanthropy has been a select few deciding the impact of many, and this mismatched dynamic of decision-making has greatly impacted the issues that receive funding. In the U.S., communities of color receive just 8% of philanthropy funding. Women and girls causes make up only 1.9%, and for every $100 awarded, only 23 cents supports the LGBTQ plus community. Sarah Lomelin, who's the founding CEO of Philanthropy Together, is a firm believer that everyone can be a philanthropist. A self-proclaimed philanthropy disruptor, Sarah has traveled the world speaking about the power of collective giving and the correlation between civic engagement and Latino philanthropy. She's an expert in diversifying philanthropy. As founding CEO of Philanthropy Together, Sarah is growing a movement of people-powered philanthropy to resource grassroots nonprofits, shift power dynamics, and promote widespread philanthropy. Sarah is frequently featured on high-profile conferences and events for innovative leaders and big ideas, including TED 2022, Netroots Nation, and Unity Summit. An expert on the future of philanthropy, Sarah is often quoted in news outlets, including Forbes, the Associated Press, the Chronicle of Philanthropy, and her writing appears in Ms. Magazine and Philanthropy Women. Her work shows how philanthropy is about the love of humanity. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. I am so thrilled to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me.
I am thrilled to speak with you as well. I fell in love. I listened to your TED Talk, but I also just fell in love with I guess I'll just call it the realness of you. Because, and what I mean by that is, sometimes in the philanthropy space, it has kind of a, untouchable image. And so I loved, listening to you and learning about you, because you made it accessible and also just like, I guess I'll use the Oprah phrase that everybody loves to use, gave me aha moments continuously, because I was like, yes, this is what it's really, really about, right?
Thank you so much. I feel I feel that as an immigrant, right? Like, to start with that, English is my second language. So my vocabulary in English is not as rich as I would like it to be. So I basically use very simple words that resonate with everybody, because I feel that, our field, the field of philanthropy, needs to be a lot more accessible, needs to be more approachable. And as you say, we need to debunk that idea that you need to be a millionaire in your 60s to be a philanthropist.
Yes. And so, I was just interested, how did you, or what drove you, I guess, to get into philanthropy, the whole philanthropy space as a career?
Well, I have reinvented myself several times. And my career in philanthropy started when I turned 40 years old. Um, so I was living at that moment. Well, before that, I was living in Dallas, Texas, with a group of friends, most of them immigrants from Mexico and Latin America. We started a giving circle without even knowing that that was called a giving circle. And then in 2010, I came back to the San Francisco Bay Area because, I have been here in the US for 26 years. So, yeah, this accent is here to stay. It's not that I just, arrived a few years ago. It's here to stay. So in 2010, when I came back to the Bay Area, there was an incredible opportunity to join the Latino Community Foundation in San Francisco as a development person. So from day one, I started learning and literally, falling in love with collective giving, because as a way to create a community of supporters for the Latino Community Foundation, we started as a giving circle in 2012 with a group of 16 women that, got together and pulled their money together and decided to take action. So that's how I started my career. And if you want, I can tell you how Philanthropy Together came about, because that's a good story too.
Yes, I would love to. Actually, that was my next question. So, from there, how did Philanthropy Together get started?
Yes, so, Philanthropy Together, we are on a mission to democratize and diversify philanthropy globally in order to expand who I want gets funded, right? So we do a lot of storytelling, training, research, and advocacy. To try to usher a new era of philanthropy that is democratic and is diverse and it's powered by people acting in, solidarity, regular people. So what sparked this idea? During my years at Latino Community Foundation, I got, the great privilege of meeting few women doing the same kind of work that I was doing with Latino communities in other communities. So I met Marsha Morgan from the Community Investment Network, a network of Black and people of color giving circles in the South. I met Hallie Lee from the Asian American Women's Giving Circle. I met at that point Joel Berman from Amplifier and Celicia Herman from Amplifier, a network of giving circles based on Jewish values. And I met Diane Chicks Bailey from what is now Philanos, which is a really large network of women's giving circles. So in 2007, all of them were together at the Women's Philanthropy Institute Symposium in Chicago. I couldn't go there, but they called me and they say, hey, why? There's nothing like this kind of symposium for people that are involved in giving circles. We just spoke with, Victoria Brana from the Gates Foundation, and she's willing to give us a small gift to get some giving circle network leaders together so we can dream big. What do we need for a field of collective giving? So in 2007, I'm sorry, I said 2007 and it's not 2007, it's 2017. Sorry about that.
Okay.
So at the end of 2017, a group of about 50 people, we got together in Grand Rapids, Michigan, during a couple of days. And we were brainstorming, right? What do we need for the field? And we saw that, the giving circle field is extremely diverse. There were networks that were very sophisticated There were networks that were very simple in their models, et cetera, et cetera. So after those 2 days, we went back to the Gates Foundation and we said, we need something as a field. Definitely we need something, but we need more time to figure out exactly what is that we need. So we embarked in a full year of a co-design project. And I was part of that core team of 6 women that were representing the different Giving Circle networks. But we included during that year of co-designing more than 100 voices. We wanted to get everyone's input and voices, in true Giving Circle model. So we conducted several hour-long Zoom interviews before Zoom was even, popular. We did working groups, and then we ended up with a convening of 100 people at the Gates Foundation with a room full of Post-it notes. And after the year, we went back to the Gates Foundation with this beautiful business plan for a 5-year initiative to democratize and diversify, the Giving Circle field, to support and strengthen the collective giving field. So the Gates Foundation loved it, and they gave us a seed grant. And we started, the job of finding more money, looking for someone to lead this initiative. And at that point, I decided to put my name in the hat. And after a very, extensive search, I ended up with the job, and I have the best job in the world. So we launched Philanthropy Together on April 1st, 2020. Right at the beginning of the pandemic.
Yeah. I have to laugh because everybody knows 2020 was like, what the heck?
I know. But you know what? I think looking back, I know at that moment, I thought, oh my God, what is going to happen, right? And we didn't know if we were going to be inside our homes for 2 weeks or a month or what.
Mm-hmm.
Looking back, it was the perfect moment for us to start Philanthropy Together, because by design, our team was going to be distributed around the country. And then and all of our programs, because our field is everywhere, right? There are Giving Circle members everywhere. So all of our programming was going to be virtual no matter what. So for us, COVID, the pandemic, helped in getting everybody tech savvy, right? A big chunk of our members, of Giving Circle members, were not very tech savvy before the pandemic, and everybody learned how to use Zoom. Everybody learned how to use different platforms. So suddenly, after a couple of months, we were putting programming out, and we said, wait a second, we were here to support the American Giving Circle field, and we have people from Germany and Chile and China and Australia joining our programs. So I guess, there is this appetite all over the world. So we, at that moment, we said, okay, we are a global organization that is strengthening and supporting the Giving Circle movement.
Yes. And I love it. I love it because it speaks to, first, I guess I'll start at the beginning of what's going on in my brain. But like the 2020, it's like, you are right that it was the perfect time, because in this period of, I guess, how many years has it been now? 4 or 5 since 2020 here that we're at.
Three, but it feels forever.
Yeah, I was 2020. I was like, what year are we on? We're in 2023. I was like, but it feels like 4 or 5 years have passed. Yes, I'm like, I had a pandemic baby. I was like, oh my gosh, in this time. But so a lot happened during that period. But with 2020, ironically and not ironically, just like vision, it gave us a clear vision of what we had created this essentially, I guess, world to be and the mess that we were in, right? And how many things, were running awry and, how people were hurting. And it became so amplified that I think you're 110% right that it was the perfect time, because then it started to show how these things that had not been funded properly, for instance, education, right? Because now parents had to take on the role of being, really a co-educator of their kid within, because students had to
Yeah.
stay at home. And so things that had not been properly funded in some areas like education. So some schools had access to technology they could take home. Some people did not. And, the ones that did not, the students started to fall behind. Also, the food, having access to food, how some people had access, some didn't. It blew the door open to show where things were not being taken care of. That's what I believe 2020 did. And, irony or not irony, like 2020 vision, it's a clear vision into where we were falling, where we were falling short as as a society. So yes, I think perfect time for Philanthropy Together to start. And then the other thing that you just touched on that I think really became evident, not that it didn't exist before, but I believe a majority of people, or a good amount of people, were not thinking this way, is that we really are so interconnected, right? And
Totally.
and that was not something that was not. I don't think that was the frame of mind going into the pandemic. People were not, they didn't see that we were so interconnected, and that's another thing the pandemic opened. And because of this, how you just talked about how you instantly sort of became a global organization because of all these things that just compiled on each other.
Yes,
Yes.
and also I think, Anne Marie, that during the pandemic, as you said, we all of us were stuck at home thinking, what is mine to give, right? What can I do so I don't feel helpless, right? So we saw a big, boom of mutual aid societies, right, that have existed forever. And, community philanthropy, like giving circles, are part of community philanthropy. And what I always say is this is not new. When people tell me, oh, what you guys are doing is really innovative. And I'm like, this is not innovative, people. This is going back to basics. Community philanthropy has always existed all over the world. I mean, the whole idea of people banding together to create good in the world and to helping one another has always existed. And I feel that the moment of the pandemic, many, many people said, okay, yes, I'm stuck here. What can I do to help my neighbor? If I go to the grocery store, maybe I can bring, my older neighbor their groceries. I can do this and that. I feel that it was a moment where there was a lot of solidarity that was sparked. And now, my wish is that solidarity keeps going and we don't forget.
Yes, of course. Yes. And yes. And I wish that definitely too. And so, being that now we've had that, that moment that brought all that to the forefront, how do we, keep that going? I guess my question is, what is that missing link that we've had between the communities, the organizations, and the funders, and how do we, create those links?
I would say, and, sometimes it sounds naive, but it's not. It's all about relationships, right? We need to move from the transaction to the looking at the human being in front of us. When I, in my years at Latino Community Foundation, A dear friend, a colleague of mine, always said, we need to fund organizations like we are funding our family. We need to look at that nonprofit leader like if that nonprofit leader is our brother, our sister, our cousin. When you look people in the eyes, the whole relationship changes and you create trust. And I feel that is the link that we need to bring to the forefront, right? Between funders, organizations, regular people is trust. And the way you build trust is through relationships and to by not rushing things, by literally take the time to say, hey, Anne-Marie, how are you? How are you feeling today? How's your kid? Like, I feel that it's important for us to come with a full self in every interaction that we have.
Yes, and I think what you talk about the relationship, and I think that's the thing that we've seen. And I'm just taking from the news, and then just what I see from a personal basis out in just shopping or hanging out in the world, is that the other thing that happened is there's this other dehumanizing factor in people, that people are just not looking, not looking at people as individuals, and being able to, get people to that mind frame that this person is a human just like you. I guess that is that to me, that has always been, the hardest thing across the board to teach people, like the other person is a person and a human just like you.
Yeah.
And I at least that's what I think is always the barrier. I don't know how to ever get people to think past that.
Totally.
And so, the other thing, of course, that has exploded during this time was DEI. And I'm taking that, we just talked about being able to see people that they are a person like you. I wanted to talk about, because the communities that get, the least funding are communities that are diverse, communities of color. And so a lot of people, I think, don't think that, DEI issues and philanthropy relate. And, I guess not to sound, I don't know if cliche is the right word, but, a lot of people think, oh yeah, we're funding, people in Africa, so we are touching people of color. That's, that's how people always think. Like anytime I talk to people in philanthropy, they feel that once they start funding Africa, they've reached the pinnacle of philanthropy. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know why that's like, there's like different levels. Like, okay, yeah, I helped my child's school. That's, level C, right? Then, I donate to an organization within my community, level B. But if I get to donate to Africa, I am level A philanthropist. I know it sounds, but that's how I always, like, every time when I talk to people, whenever they bring up like, oh, I'm donating to Africa, I always feel like they have like this, like, gold star. Like I reached level A in philanthropy.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're totally right. And I feel that, that is why I love giving circles, because, most of giving circles give locally. Because giving circles, we in giving circle lingo, we call it giving your 5 T's, right? So you go beyond the dollar. You give your treasure, which is your money. You give your time. You give your talent. You give your testimony, and you give your tithes. And in order to do all of this, it's better when it's local, right? And I feel that is something that you were mentioning too, right? Like, not only supporting organizations led by people of color, but grassroots organizations, those tiny organizations that are always underfunded by traditional philanthropy and by big philanthropy because they're too small, right?
Mhm.
Those organizations that a big foundation is not even aware of them. So that is why I like Giving Circles, because Giving Circles are really, they play this role of seed funders in a lot of these grassroots nonprofits. A group of people get together and say, okay, what is going on in our community? These are the challenges. And these are the small organizations that are, making a dent in this challenge. So they get to support those tiny nonprofits. And by doing that, then that nonprofit can leverage that money and maximize that money because they can go and then tell, say, to a business or a foundation, Giving Circle X, Y, and Z has been supporting us for the last 3 years. It's like a seal of approval. It's like that middle ground between having individual donors and then jumping through having corporate money or foundation money. So I'm with you. I feel that and you mentioned these stats at the beginning of the show, right? In the US, yes, only communities of color receive only 8% of philanthropy, which should be infuriating for all of us. And in 2020, nearly of all the, 470 something billion donated to nonprofits, all that money went to just 5%, all nonprofits in the US. So most of that money went to just 5% of nonprofits. So that leaves 95% of the sector completely overlooked and underinvested. And you're right, the majority of those small grassroots nonprofits are led by people of color and serving people of color. So where I see Giving Circles changing that is we don't have to wait for a foundation or a billionaire to come and do the work. We can all take action. We can all, get together and make a difference.
Yes, and another point that you brought up that I was falling in love with is that you brought up something I think people don't think of in philanthropy. Most people are just thinking about dollars, but before they think about, I'm going to give, $1,000 or something, as really looking at who you're giving to, why you're giving to, and also putting your whole self into it. And you expressed that your 5 T's of, it's your time, it's your talent, that it is really being invested in what you are funding. It's not just a feel good moment for you. And that really does make the difference. Yes, we can give money. Yes, we know money is important and needed. And, how we do transactions on the planet. But the thing that is really going to fuel not only, I would say, the money itself, but in order to make the change that you are funding is really devoting yourself in a different type of way and looking at those, 5 elements that you discuss before you, I guess, jump in and choose what you're going to fund.
Totally. Totally.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I think people don't, they just look like, oh, if I can give, $5 here, $10, 1,000, okay, I'm doing something. But instead of just, throwing money at it, because money is not the thing that's going to fix all these problems. It's about really taking, I know it has become a bad word in society, ownership, ownership of these issues, because even if we think that we have nothing to do with the issue, if we really start to look at the issue deeply, we are all attached to it in some way or other.
Yes, you're totally right. And something that I mentioned in the TED Talk is that, right? Like all the money in the world is not going to save us, but it's people, beloved communities will. And we cannot afford to have generations of young people not engaged in society, in civic society, in social impact. There's less and less people going to church, and what church or temple or synagogue provide to people is also this sense of belonging, this sense of community. And that is something that giving circles provide, right? We always, in all of our trainings, talk about, some of the challenges of modern society that giving circles attack. And one of them is loneliness, right? In a given circle, you are also creating relationships with, other people, that have the same values as you. You can be completely different and you can think completely different and maybe, across the aisle politically, but you both care about the same cause and you can get, behind the same cause because, you value that. So I do feel exactly what you said. It's like money is one element, but it's not the most important. What we need is not be indifferent. We need to, as you said, take ownership and say, I need to do something. I cannot say, oh, someone else is going to be taking care of this. We all need to be taking care of everything that is going around us because, as you well said it, all the issues that affect one part of our society are affecting us all.
Yes, indeed, they are. Because I even, I even had an episode on like human trafficking. And everybody would be like, I have nothing to do with that, right? Because nobody wants to think of that one. But I was like, you don't know, the person next door could be going through some stuff. So yes, every issue that we think has nothing to, no attachment to us really does in some way. And so one of the things, I guess just to get practical tips for what organizations can do. So I guess for organizations that are looking for, how do they, or I guess I would say giving circles plus, I guess organizations too, how can they, start to be certain that they can secure funding? And what I mean, I know in the giving circle, people are like, I'll give, $100 and it adds up, if you have like 100 people doing that. But how can organizations present themselves, I guess, in a better way to ensure that they get funded? I know that's a big question. That's kind of like...
yeah, that's $1 million question.
Yes.
No, I think, and that is something that, don't get me started with the whole, system of philanthropy, right? When I speak with a lot of executive directors from nonprofits, we always said like, my God, the things that I could be doing if I didn't have to devote so much of my time to fundraising. And I have been in development in fundraising for many, many years. And going back to what you said, my realness came also from not being formally trained as a fundraiser. So I was trying different things and seeing what was working, right? And something that I feel it's extremely important for an organization is to diversify your funding sources, right? I know there are 24 hours in the day. I know many organizations are focused on the big gifts, right? The major donor. Like if someone can give me $100,000, I'm going to focus on that person instead of, creating a campaign to involve, 1,000 people that are going to give 100. I would say yes, and we cannot overlook the importance of involving everyday givers. because especially, when you are engaging diverse communities, young people, we are creating this culture of philanthropy. We are engaging little by little, young people into giving, into being passionate about the mission of our organization. So yes, keep doing your major donor strategy, but also focus and diversify your funding. Because what is the risk of just focusing on the big gifts? The moment one of your major donors decide that they want to support another cause, or something happen in their lives that they're not able to support you anymore, you are in trouble. You are in big trouble, because suddenly a big percentage of your funding goes away. If you devoted also your time in creating a large number of people that are passionate about your organization and are supporting your organization every month with small gifts here and there, you are not as dependent on a big gift when you lose one. So I think, that is something that I cannot stress enough, the importance of diversifying funding revenues. In terms of, the giving circles, oh my God, there are so many examples, right? There are giving circles. Of course, the money mostly comes from the members, but there are giving circles that, apart from the money that they put, they organize campaigns, they do peer-to-peer fundraising, they will organize, a happy hour at a restaurant, and, maybe that restaurant is going to give a percentage of the sales to them. So there are many ways on how giving circles, grow that pot of money, right? Also, and this, it shocks me that some people don't know that maybe your employer or your partner's employer has a match, right? So never leave money on the table, people. Like, inquire in your job if there is a match. Because you can, maximize the money that you're giving to an organization that you care about.
Yes, and then another thing that becomes like a big question, or I guess it's not really a question, but a challenge, I should say, is within the within philanthropy and the organizations. One of the things that organizations face is respecting what the donors intend, and then also addressing the actual needs of the community. So, for example, okay, the donor says, I'm taking schools because they're easy to understand. And let's say the donor says, I want to pay for 10 new computers for the students, right? But let's say, last year we just got a grant for 10 new computers. What the kids really need now is that they need to go out and they need to have, hands-on STEM education, right? And so how do we then deal with, okay, the donor wants us to use the money for this, but the community really needs this. How do we, I think that's something that continuously happens, is like getting the donors to understand, well, it's nice that you would like it to go here, but we really need it to go here.
Yes, totally. And I feel that I go back to creating authentic relationships, right? We cannot treat donors as checkbooks or transactions. We as fundraisers need to build a relationship, an authentic relationship with our donors. And, as a fundraiser, you need to listen more than talk. And it's all, and also think that a lot of the work you do is donor education. Because as you said, like, by sitting down with that donor and saying, we're extremely grateful for your support. And we have that, we know you support, you are all about technology and, getting kids, in STEM. And we have the computers covered, But we have this program that is also part of our STEM education that needs funding. And we would really appreciate, I feel that everything is about the conversation. And there is a lot of donor education. And for all of you listening that are donors, please, please, please try to give general unrestricted money. Because at the end of the day, we as donors don't know what the community needs. Those nonprofit leaders on the ground, they are the ones that know what their community needs. So let us be, join them in supporting their needs, but taking a step back and just trusting again.
Yes, I love it. The trust. Yeah, just trust. Trust they know what they need.
Yes.
And that goes right back to your thing of looking at people as individuals. We always, I guess it's the same thing. I used to know somebody that used to tell me this saying all the time. It would be like, everybody knows what you need, but nobody knows what they need.
Yes.
Right. And so, let people, figure out what they need. And so I have 3 more questions to ask you. They're practical to get people started. So one of the first things is that people encounter barriers, I would say. And what would you say those barriers are for, I guess, just a regular individual to start seeing themselves as a philanthropist?
I think the word is really charged, right? Actually, in my days at Latino Community Foundation, when I used to tell some people like, yes, you are a philanthropist, there was this woman that really got offended. And she said, don't call me that. And I said, why not? And she said, I am not, someone that comes here and patronize other people and thinks that they know everything, what they need. Blah, 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 blah. So I had to say like, no. Like, forgive me if you thought that I was calling you a philanthropist in that way. I am calling you as a philanthropist of going back to the roots of the word, right? Love of humanity. And I feel that is what we need to do. It's like, go back to the roots of the actual word. When we were about to launch Philanthropy Together, we didn't have a name. Like during all this co-design time, we had the super sexy name of the Backbone Infrastructure Project. I mean, it's horrible, right? It's like, what is that? I don't want... Like, who wants to be part of that? So, yeah. So, we were going back and forth, like, what should be our name? Do we have like a campaign name? Do we have like an action name? And then we decided to have the word philanthropy in the name, very intentionally. And, some people said, like marketing people said, like, Philanthropy Together is very long. It's very difficult to write. Like, the word philanthropy is difficult to spell, right? Those emails are going to be so long, blah, 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 blah. And we said, you know what? It doesn't matter. We need to have the word philanthropy in our name because we are reclaiming the word and saying philanthropy is about you, loving humanity. So that's the whole message. I do feel, and yes, I totally agree with you. There's a lot of people that don't like that word. It's very charged. And little by little, by, being in a podcast like yours, by, writing an op-ed, by, doing social, writing social media, we're trying to say, hey, yes, you are a philanthropist. Being a philanthropist doesn't mean you have to be patronizing or you have to be, a white man in their 60s with tons of money. You can be 18 years old, just, finishing high school, get together with your friends and you are a philanthropist. So, Yeah, I feel that is the main part. Also, people get caught up in the word philanthropy sounds like a ton, like a lot of money, right? And some people get discouraged because they said, okay, what are my $20 going to do for climate justice, right? Like it's just $20 and the problem is huge. Guess what? We all need to be part of it, part of the solution. And with you, I mean, you coming together with your friends, then that those $20 start to multiply, right? And again, as you were saying, the money is one aspect, but your voice, our voices, the advocacy that we can do for the causes that we care about, that is huge. How can we amplify the voices of those organizations that we care about? How can we open doors for them? I have so many, stories through, for all through all the giving circles that I have met in these, past 12 years. For a lot of organizations, the doors that Giving Circle members have opened for them are, 10,000 times more important than the actual cash that went to them.
Yes. And so how, I guess, how, I guess, on the next practical question is, how do we get started with a giving circle? Like, how do we even join one, or do we just start one ourselves?
Awesome question. Okay, so on our website, philanthropytogether.org, I know it's long, there is a directory of giving circles. So we have the global directory of giving circles there. There are more than 3,000 giving circles listed. You can put your zip code, you can put a keyword, you can put a cause that you care about, and you are going to find giving circles near you. If you don't find any giving circle near you, or you want to start your own, please join us. Like every month, we have a training program called Launchpad for You. So Launchpad for You is a 90-minute webinar. It's free. I want to say that all of our programs are free of charge. So everything that you can find on our website is free. So that 90-minute program, you are going to learn, and we're going to give you a digital toolkit with everything that you need to start your own giving circle. And after that, even, after the 90 minutes, you're kind of like, I don't know, I feel kind of, I don't know where to start really. You are invited to join our, monthly group coaching with Aisha Wilson, our amazing director of engagement. You become part of the Philanthropy Together family. We have, a YouTube channel full of videos with practical tips. We have a resource library with resources from many giving circles across the country. And you are going to meet an incredible community of people like you. I know this podcast is coming out in October. So our, dates for October and November Launchpad, we have Launchpad on Tuesday, October 3rd at 7 p.m. Eastern, and also on Thursday, November 16th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And on our website, you can, even if you cannot join these 2 dates, you can join any month.
Fantastic. Nice and easy. And so my final question to you, I always like to end with a global kind of thoughts question. So where do you feel that we are heading as a global society when it comes to giving?
Oh my God, that is a big question.
Well, this is the pageant question.
Yeah. And I am always an optimist. And every day my heart, gets full of joy of the messages that we receive from people all over the world that are, taking action and are deciding to support different causes in their local communities. Yes, billionaire philanthropy is needed. yes, because, they should be given their fair share of money. Of course. And we need everyone to get involved. And I have the privilege of serve on the board of Giving Tuesday, and I am in this chat group with all the global leaders. And every day, that's how I start my day, looking at what all these incredible leaders are doing in their different countries, right? From, supporting women's shelter, young people, going and reading to elders. I mean, so many different ways of radical generosity. And I feel that is exactly, I love this, concept of radical generosity that Giving Tuesday uses all the time. It's how can we, all of us, wake up and saying, how can I be radically generous today with everything, not only with my money, with my time, with my smile, with my how can I be generous today with someone?
I love that. I love looking at, I guess it goes back to, like they say, the person, each individual, and, really taking time to reflect who they are and how they can, shine who they are to the world and contribute, I guess what we should be contributing ourselves. And all of that, leading to not only, money, but a changed mindset and hopefully some, great positive global movements that lead us to the right places. So beautiful answer. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for your time and insight. If you'd like to know more about Sarah Loma-Lin, go to philanthropytogether.org. If you have a passion for an unserved community, a social justice problem, or simply want to change minds, contact Project Good Work at projectgood.org to start your project of change today. To our listeners, thanks for tuning in to Project Good, where we're focused on what matters.